Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. In today's segment, we'll talk to Mr. Rajesh Acharya, who's a volunteer with the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, and they are celebrating the 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. What was Swami Vivekananda's philosophy? What can we learn from his teachings? And how are these celebrations going to be done? We'll learn from Mr. Rajesh Acharya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about yourself, how did you get involved into this, and what kind of message are you trying to give to the community?
Okay. I am by profession, I'm an architect. I'm from Nasik, which is near Bombay in western Maharashtra.
Right.
So I'm an architect by profession, but I got involved with the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh when I immigrated to US in around 2000.
Right.
And I was drawn to it for its selfless mission of character development in the next generation.
Okay.
So it is an all-rounded, the organization's mission is to develop character in every person in an all-rounded fashion, not just in a classroom kind of setting, but leadership qualities from physical to spiritual and intellectual, so all aspects of this thing. And they run a project called Balagokulam, where you pass on our values and heritage to the next generation. And because my children were little, I got involved to it, and then I started realizing and was inspired by the other volunteers who selflessly work for it, and that is how I got involved.
Wonderful. Now, when we talk about Swami Vivekananda, every Indian has heard his name, and especially his coming to the Chicago Convention and talking in the World Religious Conference. So if you could take us on this journey when you are celebrating his 150th year, and when you also talk about there's a need, and this organization of yours is trying to spread the message to the youngsters. But today we are finding one major issue whereby the youngsters are not being drawn to the organized religion. So what kind of challenges are you facing in Hinduism also, whereby the children are not being taught the values that character development, what you're talking of?
First of all, Hinduism cannot be broadly categorized as a religion.
Right.
It is more, in a way, it's a philosophy, and it's an umbrella under which many different faiths go, and it gives you, it's not a dogmatic view, it gives you the freedom of to identify with whatever way you want to identify with the Almighty.
Right.
And there is no discrimination, and this is very essential in today's world. In Hinduism, you find divinity in nature, you find it in every object, or whatever object you want, you could find divinity through that.
Right.
And that is something that the world requires, where the divinity has been removed from nature, and that's why the ravaging of nature is happening. So you got to put it back into where it belongs.
Right.
Also, spreading that ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. That means that God is one, but multiple people know it, but different people call it by different names.
Right.
So this is a philosophy, and also the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that the world is one family. We are in this together.
Right.
Not just human beings, but the ecosystem and all the animals, and we. So this philosophy is very much required, and how we attract children is not tell them, cast it down the throat that this is what is written in the books, and this is the philosophy, and this is what you follow.
Just follow it.
It's a question answer discussion session. Okay, what would you like Hinduism to be? How would you like, what would you like your contribution to be to humanity?
Right.
And engaging them in that way, and discarding the aspects of the religion or what has been passed down, and modifying it for today's age, and so evolving with the times in a way, in compatible way with how science evolves. And in that way, being born as in the Hindu faith, we are very fortunate that we are allowed to debate every point and accept what we find is true, and discard what is not true.
Right. When we talk about Swami Vivekananda, as I was mentioning before also, we know him more from the Chicago World Religious Conference. Basically, what was his philosophy, and how, okay, let's start off with, what was his basic philosophy?
Swami Vivekananda was born as Narendra. He was born in an affluent family, and he went, this was a time when India was under rule of the British, and just like any other family, he got a proper education in the English medium, and he was fortunate in that way. but he was drawn always to the spiritual side of things from a very young age. You can see from his childhood experiences. So when he was after his education, he was questioning every aspect. He was not particularly religious. He did not believe in rituals or dogma or any of those things, but he had a spiritual background. He has always this questioning attitude, and he was looking for the answers.
Right.
And he approached many different people who claimed to have knowledge, and none of them satisfied him. And ultimately, in his quest, he happened across Swami Paramahansa in the Kali Mandir in near Kolkata.
Okay.
So that was the first time that his question was answered, and he asked Swami whether you have seen God, right? And Swami said, I have seen God, and I have seen right now, and
I'm
through
seeing
you.
it through you, right?
And that really drew Swami Vivekananda, and after that, with his engagement with his, almost every of his question was answered, and then he took the vow of a Swami, which was for his family. It was a shock, and it was it requires deep dedication.
Right.
So.
So since the beginning, he was drawn towards spirituality.
Exactly.
And when he got an answer from Swami Paramahansa, that further intrigued him to further jump into this.
Yeah.
So again, and from his young age only, he was drawn towards spirituality, and he started studying, and of course what we know that he was a very well versed master. Now again, what was his basic philosophy about life when we talk about God? And from his teachings, and you talked about the dogmas and rituals, what we find today are much more prevalent in our society. But Swami Vivekananda was not for all this. So what was his basic mission about life when you talk about character development, when you talk about a human being as such? What kind of man he wanted to see?
Essentially, he took the message of Gita, and he truly explained what Gita is, where the society itself was in the pursuit of moksha or individual gains. He saw this quest as a societal problem, not an individual problem, that everybody is looking at their own selfish goals, but the society in general is being ignored.
Right.
So essentially, when his philosophy was that Gita is really more Gita teaches karma, it's karma yoga, it's action.
Right.
So there is more Gita in playing soccer on the field than actually doing rituals in the temple or just reading pages in a book.
Right.
So that was his philosophy, that action without expectation of the fruit, being fearless. The moment you have fear in your, it defeats the very purpose.
Right.
Understanding your true spiritual nature, that your connection to God, when you are yourself a spirit, what is there to fear?
Right.
So that kind of, in a way, kind of Kshatriya bhav in the society, that don't be afraid, just do your karma, find your mission and do that. And that is, and not on an individual basis, but as a societal basis. He saw society itself or the community itself as another being, as you can say, or avatar of God.
Okay.
And
great. We'll continue with the discussion. Let's go for a small break as to how you are celebrating now this 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. And as you mentioned that the dogmas, the rituals, are they becoming more prevalent in our society today? And what was the actual message, as you have mentioned about from Swami Vivekananda? Have we been able to, percolate it down to the masses or not? We'll talk about this.
Sure.
Once again, welcome back to the program. Today in this segment, before the break, we talked about vision of Swami Vivekananda, what he wanted. Now the question arises is that his vision, is it percolating down to the masses? Have we succeeded in that? Let's talk a little bit about that. So what do you think about that vision, what he wanted, and he struggled whole of his life. As you said, he left a lavish lifestyle, but he wanted to create that awareness in a human being so that a person can stand on his feet and talk for what is right or what is wrong. So do you think that message has been percolated down, or we are just still involved in those dogmas and rituals only?
Well, first of all, he's not from a lavish background. He was born in an affluent family, but he became a Swami. A Swami essentially is who lives on alms. He does not own anything. In terms of how the message is percolating, Hindu society is a huge society. It's very complex. And for something like this to happen in one generation is impossible. But he was one in many different reformers, as you can say, social reformers who have come. And just like the flow of the Ganga, everybody comes and contributes swaha and goes away. So, but he set the ball rolling, and he identified the nation of Hindus from the Himalayas, and for the first time it was articulated very well that this is the nation of Hindus, and this is a sacred land where lots of people have sacrificed their bloods, lots of people have come and gone. But he said the concept of Hindutva, that the Hindu-ness of this nation, that is what distinguishes us from the rest of the people. Though we may follow multiple faiths, multiple paths to God, but he identified that and he articulated that to the rest of the world. When, for example, in the Western world, Hindus were known as the heathens, right? The people who are, animists, or they're this thing, and they need to be kind of culture has to be brought to them, and they have to be civilized. And there was all these missionary activities going on, and that was the idea of world had of Hindus. And it was for the first time when the World Parliament of Religion happened. Hinduism was not even considered a religion to be invited to that. There were a few people of a different bent of mind who participated there, but they were more putting down Hinduism rather than representing it thoroughly. So when Swami Vivekananda, I am not sure whether he was invited for it or he decided to do that, but under extreme challenges, one of the kings sponsored him, and he went around collecting money. He came over here without knowing what the West is like. He landed actually in Vancouver for the first time, and from here he traveled to New York. And being a Swami who is forbidden from owning any money or taking any money, he didn't have money. He depended on society for his survival. He would beg for alms. So he went without food or sleep. In this society, that doesn't happen.
That was unheard of.
Yeah, so he slept on the pavements for many years, and by grace of gods, he happened to meet some lady who got him organized, introduced to the person, and he went to the World Parliament where they refused to even encourage him, but then somehow things worked out, and he, from a single person without any money, penniless, ended up in this World Parliament of Religions. But when he rose up to speak, the very first words that he said,
he mesmerized the audience.
Exactly. So everything that all of these people are trying to say, that we should come together, work together, all religions is the same. With a few words, it all came together. And basically, that is the greatness of Hinduism, that the Hindus can give this message to the world, that it's not just tolerance, but it is respect for each other's way.
How are you trying to spread this message now when we are celebrating the 150th birth anniversary?
So let me tell you about HSS a little bit. HSS is basically a selfless organization which works without any money for character development of children. And in a way, Swamiji's vision, HSS is his vision in action. So whatever Swamiji say, that we need organization, we need cooperation, we need strength, we need confidence, we need fearlessness, and we have to pass this down to the next generation, and this is what HSS is doing. So he, out of the many projects that HSS does, every year we take up some project and we take it to the end. So HSS took up this opportunity of celebrating 150th anniversary, and we are doing this through multiple means with whatever strength we have in the organization. It started with a launch. So the launch activity was just kind of bringing all like-minded people together and let's see what we can do. So joining the dots. So it's not, HSS doesn't call itself an organization. We are basically an organized society. So we are free to work with every organization which has a dharmic bent of mind, all dharmic organizations. So that was the launch. Second was we had an activity called Speaker on Campus. So various speakers would go to different campuses and universities and engage the youth, disseminate our ideas and answer their questions. Third was we set up an exhibition, a very beautiful exhibition about Swamiji's life and message was created. Multiple copies of this were made and were circulated through, Capitol Hills, legislatures, universities, libraries, wherever we were given an opportunity. The third was a Dharma Bee contest, which was one of the key focus for children. So just like the spelling bee, the Dharma Bee was organized about Swami Vivekananda's life and about Shri Krishna's. And we have realized that to engage children here, where all parents want them to compete and win some awards or whatever, we did not mind doing that, but giving them a positive message about what Swamiji's life is. He is the ideal role model for in the Indian diaspora. He shows what our role is in this society. We are ambassadors of our heritage and our culture, and this is what our children need to know. They need to be proud of their heritage. They need to be a role model for the rest of the world, that how you do selfless service, how you respect each other's way of life, you respect each other's faith. So it was very important to pass this message, and through Dharmabhi contest, little kids, dividing them into different age groups, we did regional competitions, provincial competitions, national competitions, and $50,000 of award was given away. The grand finale was in Chicago. Last event was Dharma and Yoga Fest. We see a lot of festivals here happening, from India Day to Indian Independence Day to whatever it may be. But under the Dharma and Yoga Fest, we wanted to bring all organizations, be they yoga studios or Ayurveda or multiple organizations like spiritual organizations, bring them together and kind of give them an opportunity to mix and mingle.
Great. If towards the end, if you have to take one particular message from the life of Swami Vivekananda, what would that be?
I think the biggest message is the call to action. Then banish laziness from your life. You know, take up this mission of focusing on the action rather than the rewards. The rewards will come. So karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Do your karma without respect. Your rewards will come in some form. It may not be in monetary form, but some or the other form your rewards will come. Don't worry about it.
So just do it.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure having you. Thank you and best wishes.
Okay.